asking right now. So this is a really big question because it encompasses a whole load of things to do with systems, software, processes, AI and automation. Most companies that we go into are set up like this, depending on the size, but they would typically have one system which is their main system. Now, if they're a larger company, it might be an ERP system, something like Epic or SAP or Microsoft Dynamics. And the idea of these systems is that you do everything within them. So it will be your finance, it will be your operations, it will be your project planning, it will be everything all in one place. Your kind of deliverable platform, but encompassing everything. In other companies, they have a different makeup. So they might have Xero or Sage as their finance system. They might use Monday for their kind of delivery stuff, or they might use Salesforce as their CRM, and so on and so forth. So in those kinds of companies, you've got lots of different bits of software all together. But what you also see is companies who are using these systems that are meant to do everything, like SAP, for example, but they still use Sage for their finance. And the reality is, and I've been in this business for over 26 years in terms of IT, I've never yet met one company that uses one bit of software that does absolutely everything. Because even if they're using it for a lot of things, they're still exporting stuff into Excel or stuff like that. So you have to ask yourself, if this software does everything, or you've got different bits of software that do all the things that you do, what are all these people doing? All the people in the finance department, all the people in the project departments, all the people in the delivery departments, all the people in the marketing departments. Usually when you walk around an office and there's lots of people, or via Teams, and you see what's going on, there's lots of people typing away, putting stuff from one system into another. And this is the key point here. So let's say you use SAP and Sage, for example. There'll be people exporting stuff from SAP, putting it into Sage, doing forecasts in SAP, moving it into Sage, taking purchase orders from a different system and putting it in. That's what these people are doing. They're typing one thing into another. Now, that gets us on to the point of what I would call digital glue, or actually what I like to say is the connective tissue, right? At the moment in your business, it could well be that people are the connective tissue. They're the bits that, they're the people that move the data across and around the different systems and interpret that data. Okay, so there is already ways of connecting some of these systems up. So APIs being the most popular and well-known one, and tools like Zapier, Make.com, N8N.com are tools that are meant to glue these things together. However, there is a problem. Number one is that it's often very tricky to get those things to speak to each other. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, which seems to be the biggest complaint when we speak to people, is that the API does this, but it doesn't do that last bit, so they don't bother, or they get it just doing some of it, but then someone has to produce the export that goes into a different system. So it never quite does everything that you want it to do. But let's take a few steps back here and think about those people that are sitting there typing stuff in and moving stuff around. They are using a desktop computer and they're moving stuff from one piece of software into another, and those two bits of software may or may not have APIs that allow them to connect in together. That is where you get into the realm of something called desktop automation, sometimes called robotic process automation. And that is where you can use automation and AI, which is called intelligent automation, to basically replicate what people are doing on the screen. So it could be that the API gets you 80% of the way there, but you need something to do that last little hop to export that report and take the data out of the spreadsheet and put it somewhere else. So that is really the power of proper automation and AI. There's loads of stuff out there at the moment which is trying to sell you kind of API stuff only, but it never really does everything. And like I said, I'm yet to find a company where it's doing everything. And also, it's pretty complex. Things like Salesforce or Xero, all these tools have really great APIs, but actually the gluing of that together is quite tricky. And to go back to some of the other videos that I've done, you still need to go back to that kind of best practice, which is understanding the process, documenting the process, and really mapping out why and how you're doing things. So the answer is yes, AI and automation absolutely can work with your legacy systems, and the real win there is you don't have to get rid of your legacy systems, you can keep the ones that you've got. But the key is to understanding what those processes are, how people are using them, and what those people are doing that are sat in your office, so that you can start to map out that process and get it to work with your systems. So I hope that helps.